All right. Hello, 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 folks, and welcome to Shared Space with Quida and Chap. Although my brother Chapo from another mother, he's not here today. He might be checking in with us. And just in case he's listening, I want to tell Dougie and the fam, hey y'all, hey. So I am Laquita Chansey. I'm the founder and director of Baltimore Homes, and we build micro shelters and tiny homes for folks who are unhoused right here in Baltimore. And this is shared space where we share space with the community. And so Destiny, Miss Jesus, mm-mm, we just went over it. De Jesus, right?
Yeah, you were close.
I thought I was flowing, but okay, so we back at it. So Destiny, once upon a time, was right here in Baltimore, Maryland. If you guys watch the show, I happened to be on Donnie's show, and then folks from Land of Kush called in, and we got to talking. And yeah, so I just need to know Destiny. So let's start with we're going to talk about a bunch of things because I want to get into the tiny home, right? I want
Yeah.
to talk about the Vegan Soul Fest. I want to talk about your journey, but let's start with like, how did you get connected with Land of Kush when you were here in Baltimore? Like, where did I want to say my connection to you start, but where did that relationship
Yeah.
start?
Yeah. So I've actually never lived in Baltimore. I just have a lot of like connections in Baltimore, thanks to Naja. But yeah, I met Naja, who is the founder of Black Veg Society, but also a co-owner of the Land of Kush. I met her through another collective that I was organizing with. So I'm like a community organizer for a bunch of different collectives, but this one specific was focusing on food justice and just kind of promoting the vegan lifestyle. And I met Naja through that. Like I was interviewed on Naja's show and we really clicked. She's from the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx. So we had like a lot in common from the beginning. And honestly, we just meshed and I started helping out with social media for the Land of Kush and then eventually Black Veg Society. And yeah, Naja, like that's my person. I feel like she has put me on to so many different things. Like shout out to her because honestly, like she's definitely jump started my career in like the vegan movement. So she's amazing.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. And so, what made you go
Mhm.
vegan? Let's take a step back. What made you go vegan?
Yeah,
Because I mean, chances are you weren't born vegan. Your parents
I
weren't
was not.
eating vegan, right?
No, definitely not. I went vegan around 5 years ago, a little over 5 years, and yeah, the main reason was for health. My both my family members, both my parents, sorry, my mom and my dad both have diabetes and high cholesterol and anything you could think of they have, and it's like really bad. And throughout the years, I've just seen their bodies like deteriorate, and just realizing that there's a correlation between the food that we grew up eating and they continue to eat and their health just really stuck with me. I also initially kind of did it to help with like my acne. When I was like in my early 20s, I had like severe cystic acne. And I Googled like how to get rid of this because I had tried everything possible. And one of the main things was to stop eating dairy. So I stopped consuming dairy, then eventually stopped consuming meat, and then just went fully vegan. And yeah, just kind of been doing the thing for like the past 5 years.
And I mean, so then that kind of brings me to I told you that I saved the number on my phone, and TikTok was like, oh, well, you know this person now that you're on TikTok. Look at what is it? Eat Your Destiny, right?
Yeah, that's yeah.
I was scrolling like, oh, so that's how I can make this delicious. Oh, that's how I can. So how long were you doing the Let's Eat Destiny or Eat Your Destiny page? I know it still
Yeah,
exists,
yeah.
but
Yeah. So I'm primarily I do a little bit of TikTok. I'm primarily on Instagram with EO Destiny, but I think I've that honestly that page started when I went vegan. I kind of just like converted my Instagram page to a food diary. Like I was just showing people what I was making, where I was shopping, how I was throwing things together, and it was honestly like kind of for me to hold myself accountable and be like, okay, like cool, you made this vegan lasagna. Like, let's go back to that day when you made that. So it started
right.
as that. And then a lot of people just started being interested in, I'm like super frugal, like cheap is my middle name. So like I was sharing a lot of tips on like how to do things, for the low or like on a budget. And it just like really like stuck with a lot of people. So I think that's how I just started developing like the content and stuff. So yeah, it's one of my like passion projects. I post every day. I like to just share like tips and tricks and stuff on Instagram. And yeah, I've definitely built like a really nice community of people on social media because of that.
That is, it's just like you just go out and do it, right? Like you just get
Yeah.
it done. I love that. I love that. Okay, so then that brings me to Land of Kush. So you've never lived here in Baltimore. That is
Mhm.
crazy to me. I really did think because I feel like I was talking to somebody else and they knew who you were. I'm trying to remember. I'm not gonna try to remember because I'm always running my mouth. But yeah, so I really did think that you lived here. But so Vegan Soul Fest, this
Mhm.
is not the first year. It's the third year, maybe.
Um, I know they did it last year. It was like a big thing last year. But yeah, so I got connected with like the Baltimore scene again through Naja, and honestly, like I mean, Naja does a lot. She has her hands in like a lot of different things. So
Everything.
yeah, I love it. It's great. Like she has so many connections and has helped me like build connections as well. So yeah, Vegan Soul Fest is definitely something that is like going to be huge this year. I mean, it was big last year, but definitely this year is going to be like top notch. And so I'm excited to see how that develops and stuff. I know everybody's like really excited. I've been seeing it all over social media, so that should be really cool. And yeah, with the Land of Kush, I started helping out with social media. Like I've been to Baltimore before. I visited. I've had the food at the Land of Kush, delicious. So I was like, you know what, this is a great opportunity to kind of just promote one of the oldest like vegan soul food restaurants. They're like the OGs in Baltimore.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I feel like they kind of like set the standard, and then like a bunch of other things started popping up, which is great. Like the more the better. But there's still something about being like the original.
Triple OG, triple OG.
Yes, yes. So I really like that resonated with me. I love, being involved with them, and they're not only about food. Like they do community service events. I know every Monday they host like food shares, and are like involved in like food pantries and things like that. So it really just kind of resonated with my personal mission of helping with educating community about food justice and food accessibility and things like that. And yeah, it's been really fun. Though I'm not there, I want to go back to Baltimore sometime this year. But everything is virtual now. I started working with them in 2020, and that was, everybody was pretty much home during that time. So yeah, it's been interesting, and I don't know, posting the content makes me hungry because I'm just like, this food looks so good and I miss it.
I love that. I love that. So it is just blowing my mind, like all the connections, because very much so, like the food justice is a huge issue. Like I was telling you before we even started, that Baltimore Homes is fundraising to build 3 parcels. But in the meantime, I'm like, we need to plant some mushrooms, get this soil together, and then, use dirt so that we can start growing some tomatoes, cucumbers, some of the easy stuff that I hear is easy. Because listen, I got a brown thumb, literally and figuratively. Okay, so I'm gonna need community for real to keep this thing alive. All right.
Yeah, it's not easy. I dabble in gardening, and 9 times out of 10, like I could get something to grow one time, but maintaining it's not gonna happen.
That is my struggle. That is my struggle. Like I got this little aloe vera plant that is
Mm.
struggling, honey, and it's supposed to be easy because it's like it's a cactus or it doesn't need that
Yeah.
much water or something. Like, Lord, but I'm gonna figure it out. This is why I don't do anything by myself because I know exactly what is not my lane. But as far as the food justice goes, what are some of the organizations for folks that watch this later? What are some of the organizations that are right here in Baltimore that they can volunteer with or get involved with, or even nationally? Um,
Yeah. So yeah, for one, definitely want to plug Black Veg Society. So they do a lot of in-person events in Baltimore. I know there's like Meatless Monday events. One is coming up soon. I'll have to double check the date. But yeah, there's a Meatless Monday coming up soon where they have like vendors. It's free to the community. They have DJs, food sampling, like just different ways to get people more involved in like the vegan scene. Because a lot of times people are a little bit skeptical. They're like, I don't want that vegan food. I don't have no flavor. So like the best way to get people started is to serve them food. So I know that's like a really big event that they do in Baltimore in collaboration with some other nonprofits and organizations. And then for nationally, I can talk about one of the collectives that I've worked with in the past. They're called Veggie Mijas, and it's they focus on like intersectional veganism and food justice and all the things. I mean, we have started community gardens in different cities. I used to organize a chapter in Dallas, Texas. So I mean, we've done like flea markets with like Black-owned businesses or women-owned businesses and things like that, just to promote that like we're out here, we're eating the plants, we're doing the thing, we have businesses in this world.
Right.
And just to kind of like educate people that it's not only about food, like it's also about health, it's also about the environment, sustainability, the animals, if you're into that, like going vegan is very much like once you open the door, there's so many other things that come, that you will find out about. So yeah, definitely Veggie Mijas is a great collective. I know they're in like a bunch of different cities. There's a chapter in New York, LA, Orlando. We had one in Vegas. So yeah, if you're looking to be more involved in like the food justice movement, that's like a really great organization too.
Lovely, lovely. And it sounds like they can help me with this garden. So I'm gonna
Oh yeah,
definitely
for sure.
it ain't my thing. That is not my lane. So we'll talk about that later. So now to your tiny home. Let's talk about the tiny home, because I can see that we got a little tiny window in the back.
Yeah.
It looks like you're in the office right now. This is your big office space. Maybe this is I see another desk in the back. Tell me something about your tiny home.
Yeah, sure. So we bought this tiny house last April. Well, technically last winter, but we moved in last April. So it's been a year and like a month at this point that we've been living in it full time. But it is a 30-foot long tiny house, 8.5 feet wide, 13.5 feet tall, and we have a bedroom, we have a standing office, so this desk has like it can stand up and I can stand with space. We have a living room under here, which we kind of use as like a guest bedroom if we have people over. We have like a sofa bed that turns, it can turn into a bed. We have like a full kitchen and a bathroom. Like it's literally just a studio apartment. Like a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's so small, how do you feel? And I'm like, it just feels like we're in a studio. It's not, anything different to us. I think because we have so many different spaces that we can like work from or just kind of like hang out in, it doesn't feel like cluttered or anything, and so yeah, it's been fun. It definitely was not easy. Like I don't want to say blood, sweat, and tears because there really was no blood involved because we didn't build it. But like a lot of like tears and just stress went into like even learning about how to go tiny and like obtain the loans and find the parking spot, which is so difficult. Like the hardest part about living tiny is finding a place to park it because of zoning laws, and they want to keep us back, honestly, because it's just like, okay, you could buy this house and it's cheaper, but like you can't put it anywhere. So that's been one of the struggles. And then just the cost of the house alone, like I think they're becoming more glamorized now, and unless you know how to like build one, you kind of have to go through builders that are charging like, oh my gosh, like there's some that are like $160,000 and they're like smaller than this. So it's getting really expensive. But I'm glad that we did it now as opposed to like doing it later,
Yeah. So with your tiny home, did you design it with someone, or did you start looking online? How do you even find the tiny home that you're in?
Yeah, so we were looking at doing a custom builds. We called so many different builders. Honestly, that process was stressful in itself because when we were doing our research, we were watching all these tiny house videos and everybody's like, oh, I bought my tiny house for like 50K or 30K. And then we go to these builders and they're like, that is not like, you will get
not realistic.
For that. Right. So we learned like very quickly that it's going to be over probably like 89, closer to 90K. And that's actually what we paid for this one. But originally we went through a builder called Tiny Homies, and we gave them our budget. We gave them the timeline. I thought it was really cute too. It's like a Dominican woman who owns the business for her husband, so supporting
The name is so cute.
tiny home.
Yes.
Yeah, they were really nice. So we had like consultation calls with them, and we were talking about like what we wanted. It was really hard because we were currently like at the moment we were living in an apartment, and our lease was up at like a certain time, and we couldn't extend. So our timeline was very tight. And it turns out that they had built a house a year prior, and that person was actually looking to sell it because he bought it as like his little fun house. He had money. So it was like his little fun house that he had in the backyard, didn't really like use. And so he was looking to sell it for like, you know, cheaper than what he actually bought it for. And they had built it. So we worked with them and we got it from him. So technically it's like a secondhand, you know, like not secondhand, but like
Right.
somebody had lived in it before. But yeah, it was in, you know, like brand new condition, basically, like nothing was really wrong with it. And yeah, we took it because the layout that we were looking for was actually like this. Like we wanted to prioritize the home office because we both work from home and this had it. So we're like, let's just jump on it. So yeah, that's how that happened.
And how long were you looking? How long would you say you were looking?
Not long. I mean, like maybe 6 months. So we did a lot in
Okay.
like 6 months. It was probably like the most stressful like thing I've ever done. Because yeah, like we've realized that everything has to happen at one time. Like you need to have the funds ready to go. You need to have the builders because the builders are like, oh, like, okay, you need to pay for it. And then also we need a picture of where you're going to park the house. And we're like, we don't know where we're going to park the house. And then when we're looking for parking, they're like, we need a picture of the home. And we're like, but we don't have a so it was just like a hot mess, like for 6 months of us like looking. And yeah, we were living in Vegas at the time. We drove to LA to look at it. And we just kind of walked up in there. We were like, this is going to be our house. So let us know when you're ready. And then he called us, I think maybe like a month later. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, it worked out. We manifested this for sure.
Absolutely. So for my tiny home, it sounds like your tiny home is actually like street ready. Like you might have to get a little thing because it's long, but it sounds like it can go on the road. And so tell me about that.
Yeah. So we like we're actually moving it in 2 months. So in July we'll actually be moving to Texas. So it's like over 2,000 miles the drive. And so yeah, it's ready to just be hooked up to somebody's truck and they're just gonna drive it to Texas and we don't have to get like any permits. I think if it was a little bit wider, we would have to get like an oversized permit, but luckily we're like right at the line where we don't have to like pay anything extra. But it is not cheap. Like we went into this thinking, oh, we can move every 2 years. That is not the case, especially when you have a larger tiny home like ours. Yeah, it's gonna cost us like $8,000 to go from Oregon to Texas. So yeah, we might start a GoFundMe because it's expensive.
Yeah, start the GoFundMe. Y'all heard it here. Look for them and put something on it, y'all, because yes, I'll agree with you. My tiny home is parked where the builder is. It's on a farm in West Virginia because the way the government works, they kind of don't care about what's on farmland, but you got to know somebody kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the hardest part is finding somewhere to park. I want to bring mine here in Baltimore and they're not legal here. So my thing is, well, this is just a demonstration site. And they're like, well, even if it's a demonstration, we want it on a platform. I'm like, but it's a demonstration for what I want to demonstrate. And I don't want to demonstrate it on the platform. So we're going to go back and forth and see how it goes. But I really do hope that one day Baltimore is like, yes, tiny homes are legal. Because I feel like it would increase population. And Black people need a place where they can park their tiny homes and not feel like they don't belong in these spaces. Tell me how that's going for you.
That's another thing.
wait, let me tell you this. Like what I do know about Oregon is that it has a lot of tiny home communities, but I also know that sometime recently they just decided to take off the books that it was like it was illegal to be African American in Oregon until like 1990. And granted, no one was getting arrested, but the fact that they didn't even want to remove it from the books when Black people were like, yo, we don't like this. And they're like, well, we're not enforcing it. Okay, then take it out. Like, so I can only imagine how that, please. Am I
Yes.
reading too much into it? Is it a
No, no,
thing?
no, no. I mean, that's part of the reason why we're leaving, because it's too white. Like there's no the community here. Like though it is tiny house friendly, like we could probably find another parking spot out here very like easily. It's just the community is not here. Like I think Portland itself. I mean, obviously, like when you go to any state, like even in Texas, like the major cities are a little bit more like liberal, a little bit more chill. You don't have to like worry too much. But Portland, I think, is like 5% black. So it's like very, very small on that. Like when we see black people outside or like people of color in general, we're just like, what's up? Like, can we be friends? Because there's so few of us, you know? And we knew that coming in, obviously. But once you're here, you're kind of like, damn, like I didn't think it was like
It's
that.
different, right?
Yeah. So it's, Portland itself, like it's a cute little city. I think if you're like a white liberal, if you're like a queer white vegan, it's like a cute city.
Right.
And it's interesting because my wife and I, like, we walk around and we feel safe to be gay, but we don't feel safe to be like people of color out here, you know?
Yes.
And it's like nobody wants to live like that. Like so we're just like, no, we gotta go. But yeah, it's definitely like a state that because this was the only place we could find parking at the time, we were kind of forced to come to Portland without really like wanting to be here. We kind of had to go like where the tiny house was going to take us, and so we did it for a little bit, and now it's time to go.
That is crazy. So, I love that for you. Get the hell up out of there. Because again, like I told you, we go to places where we're celebrated, not where we're
Right.
tolerated. Because who wants to live like that, right? Like, that's why I know corporate America ain't for me. And that's why I understand why you work from home. So all these things, like we have to continue to create our safe space where we can grow and flourish like this pro, okay? Because the spring has sprung. All right.
Yes.
So also, Destiny, tell me about where are we going in Texas? Because I visited Texas. I was it before the pandemic? It was right before the pandemic. And I stayed in Dallas, and I stayed in a tiny home there, and it was really cool.
Oh,
It was another 20-foot tiny home like mine. It had a little bathroom, a little kitchen. It was real cute. So
nice.
Texas is very tiny. Well, I won't say very tiny home friendly because I don't live there, but how easy was it to find your parking, and what finds you in Texas?
Yeah. So my wife and I actually met in Texas. I had lived there for like 4 years. She lived there for like 6 years. And we just like randomly met there. So we're familiar with like the Dallas area. And yeah, Texas is very tiny house friendly. I think it's one of the states, I mean, like you said earlier, like it's not legal in all states, but Texas is one of the states where you can have a tiny house on your property. Obviously some communities like with the HOA, like, some
Right.
communities are not with it, but a lot of times if you have like farmland or like, a house with a lot of property, you're able to like bring your house there. So yeah, there's a bunch of like tiny house communities throughout Texas. There's some in Dallas, there's some in Austin. We actually toured one of them in Austin, and a lot of people are like building their own tiny communities now in Texas. Unfortunately, like a lot of them are getting very expensive. Like people are just kind of like, all right, we're gonna build a tiny house community and charge like $1,400 a month to live in it. And I'm just kind of like, that's the purpose of us going tiny is so that we don't have to pay these crazy rent prices. Like 400 to 700, that's the meat, like that's where we want to be, like paying 1,400 to live in a tiny house. I could have just stayed in an apartment at that point. So you do kind of have to like be on the lookout for like the scams. But yeah, like Dallas is really cool. Like we're actually going to be like on the outskirts of Dallas, so we're not going to be like in the actual city. It's really hard to find parking that's close to a city. So I think we're kind of like 45 minutes away from Dallas, which is, it's cool. We're still young. We still want to like be in the city life. I want to be able to like drive to a concert and then come back to my house kind of thing. So yeah, we're going to be in like a little community with other tiny houses. So that'll be nice to just have like people who are like-minded.
I love that for you. So not just someone's backyard, which is what would have to go on here in Baltimore, or Baltimore County. You might be able to sneak a tiny home there. And I'll be honest, Destiny, like as I drive around, I do stop and see like tiny homes here, parked on the street, parked in even West Baltimore. There's a couple of tiny homes, but people aren't living in them. And so that's the thing. We need people living in these things. I think there are, like you said, they're an affordable housing solution. Like you're using less electricity, or not even only electricity, but just consuming less
Everything.
because the home is smaller, right? Awesome.
Yeah, definitely
Awesome.
financially, it was like one of the biggest. We went tiny because of finances. Like we just for what? Why are we going to be paying like $1,800 to live in a 1-bedroom apartment in the city when we can own something? And yeah, it's good.
So
I
what
think
did
because
that
it's
look
so.
like though? Go ahead,
Uh-huh.
it's good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, because it's so small, like we can't buy a lot of things, so we're not like shopping for like random things like we used to when we had like a 2-bedroom apartment. But yeah, I think were you gonna say like what did it look like us getting into it, or?
Yeah, well, you stepped right into where I was going, like the minimalism of it all. How did
Mm.
that look like? Were you a minimalist before you moved there? And not that you have to be a minimalist to live in a tiny home, but you got to be
Mhm.
reasonable about the space that's there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was not. I mean, I was born and raised in the Bronx in like a very small apartment where we had so much shit. Like, for lack of better words, like this so much. And it's like I just grew up with a family that was like, low income. So like when you get something and you can afford it, you're like, just
Boom.
keep getting. And I'm like, we have closets full of, and I brought that mentality, to my adulthood. And it wasn't until I met my wife where she was like, why do you have like 18 comforters and like 47 cups in your kitchen? And I was like, I don't know. Like, this is just kind of how I grew up. So, yeah, like I definitely downsized after leaving New York. And then we actually, before this, a tiny house, we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Vegas. So we had a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff because we had closets that we could just throw things in. And so it took like during those 6 months of us, looking for tiny houses, we just sold everything. Like, and that is honestly what helped us buy the house, like drive all the way to Portland, like just selling all of our stuff. And we realized that like, we don't need all this stuff, like we don't,
Right.
you have a storage unit full of things that you don't even use. So like, if you're not using it, just sell it, you can buy it again if you really need it. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. We have so many different storage spaces in this tiny house that it doesn't feel like cluttered or anything like that, but we still could downsize. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, our house looks very minimalistic, but like when you open the drawers, we got a lot of stuff in these drawers. So yeah,
They're about to bust wide open.
I'm like, we gotta like stuff, especially the clothing. Like, we have a 6-foot long closet in our bathroom, which is like a blessing because I mean, we like clothes. So, where our hangers are like to the max. And I'm just like, I mean, if we have space for it, then we have space for it.
That would be me. That would be me. Like, people always ask me, I'm like, yeah, so I built this tiny home, but it's a demonstration, this, that, and the other. They're like, well, did you ever live in it? I'm like, that thing is the size of my closet. Like, I would have to make some serious life decisions to like make
Yeah.
it work. But to that point, like, there is some freedom in having less things, less items, fewer things. You know what I mean? So I could totally
Yeah.
understand that. So, okay. So like you mentioned though, like the budget needs to be in line. You had to sell everything. For me, for my tiny home, I had to use a personal loan. So what was it that you all did so that you could fund your tiny home? Because it's hard to fund something that's on wheels and it can be found anywhere, right? So
Oh yeah, no, we definitely went through a personal loan as well. And that was another thing. Like when we were doing our research, people were like, yeah, it's so easy. Like use this company. They'll give you 100,000, and we got approved for like 45. And we're like, okay, well that's what we're gonna use. So yeah, we got approved for a 45,000 loan, and then individually, like together, I think we put like 20 down. And then luckily the guy that sold us the house was able to kind of work with us so that we could do like a monthly like plan. We pay him like $500 every month just to like continue that. And that's not really, there's no interest or anything like that. So if it wasn't for that, we would not have been able to do tiny living because we didn't have the money up front. Yeah.
But
So
that is an amazing, like, I'm glad that he's like, one, he paid for it, built it, and then charged y'all less. And then also like not putting interest on it. So he's being very equitable. I love him for that. I love y'all. I love that for y'all even more, right?
Yeah.
Like that's pretty dope. Because my interest rate was not 0% interest. So yeah.
Right. I mean, our loan is definitely like not, I mean, yeah, we're paying a lot for the loan. So
right.
Yeah.
The bank is
um,
going to do what banks do, but he was
yeah.
generous. I mean, so that's
Hmm.
pretty cool.
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
so you all were able to save, you were able to do a personal loan, and now you're making payments. How do you feel about the utilities? What do you think about that? It should be a fraction of what they were before, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we the apartment that we had just left, we were paying 1,400 just for the rent. That didn't include utilities, trash, Wi-Fi, none of that. So right now, when we moved in, we were paying 650, and that included water, sewage, trash, Wi-Fi. I'm like, what else? Yeah, electricity. And so now it's 700 because we've been here for like a year already. But even that, like 700 compared to 1,400 just for the rent, like we're getting $700 worth of electricity, like unlimited Wi-Fi and all that stuff. So it definitely is way cheaper. Once we pay off the house, it'll be even cheaper because we will only have to pay the rent. But right now we're paying, the 700 for rent plus the loan plus the man plus so it is very like it's kind of like we're paying the same thing that we were paying for the apartment, but at least this is something that at the end of the loan, when it's all said and done, it's ours. We can do whatever we want with it, and we can move it wherever we want. So yeah, it hurts a little bit because it is expensive, but it's also like, all right, this is the sacrifice we have to make. So yeah, it's been cool. Definitely looking forward to not having to pay the mortgage or whatever.
Right, right. When I was looking here, I think I could have parked like in north of Baltimore, a spot called Glenarm, and I think they wanted like $500 a month for utilities and such.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, that's cool, but I want it here in Baltimore. I don't want it in Glenarm. Like that's not the same place. So we didn't
Mhm.
move forward with that. But that is good to know that 700, if you're living in it full time, is probably a little more what's expected, right?
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah.
nice, nice. And so, like I said, I was kind of stalking you on the TikToks and such. So, are you all driving the? I saw you have a pickup truck. Are you all gonna drive
Um,
the?
no. So my wife's pickup truck would, yeah, it wouldn't even pull. No, she has
Okay,
like it's a pickup truck, but it's still like it's not strong enough
it's a
to be pulling a
baby.
house like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it'll take a couch and like things like that, but not the house. But no, we're working with a mover. And I mean that's another thing I would love to talk about. Like the moving process is like the first time we did it was so stressful. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. From
Write it
like
down. Tell us.
I
Yeah.
but it was a learning experience. So now that we're doing it for a second time, we know what to look out for. But initially we went with a company that was kind of like a dispatch company that moved tiny houses, but they also moved like other things like freight and just other stuff aside from someone's actual home. And so because of that, like the guy who showed up wasn't really prepared to pull something as large as our house. And like I think he was like a day late. His transmission blew out. He blew out one of our tires in the house within like 5 minutes of him trying to get out of the parking spot. When we opened the door, when it actually arrived, sorry, we live like on a busy street. But when we opened the door, like the refrigerator was like on the sink and the sink was cracked and the wheels on the sliding door were like off. So it was like a very rough first experience and really put like a bad taste in our mouth. However, I think this time around, we're prepared. Like we're not going with a big company like that. We're going with like a small, like husband and wife owned tiny home specific moving company. They're actually going to help us like unhook our utilities and the sewage. They're going to take us off of our we're like raised up so that we're not on our wheels and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely do your research when it comes to finding a mover because cheaper is not always not always better. But yeah,
Right.
definitely looking forward to like the new our next move. It is scary to see your house like on a highway though, for sure. It's it's like your life
I
savings just on a highway.
Yes, like anything could happen.
Oh my
Yeah, yeah,
gosh.
yeah. But that, yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so all the prayers are gonna be with you all when
Thank
that
you.
goes down. Like, oh my goodness, I can only imagine. Okay, so we talked about land of push. We talked about the moving process. You're going to Texas. So what is it that we're gonna do when we get to Texas? Anything new? I know our lives are gonna continue, but anything new gonna start in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are just ready to pay the house off so that we can just kind of live a little bit more like not debt free because we'll still have debts. Like we still have student loans that probably ain't going nowhere anytime soon. Student loans, that's a whole nother thing. But like once we're able to pay off the house, we'll be able to pay off our cars. We can pay down, like other things. So it's just, I think we're just looking forward to like putting the house in one spot where we don't have to like worry about moving it. We have like help around us. We have people who live in tiny houses. So if something happens in our house, we could like ask for help,
Right.
And so, yeah, just kind of looking forward to just living and not having to worry about money. The cost of living in the north, like right now we're in Portland and it's just so expensive. Like even grocery
Yeah.
shopping. And I'm like a budget shopper. And for me to say that it's expensive out here, I'm like, okay, yeah, we gotta go. So yeah, just like looking forward to enjoying like the low cost of living and like being around community. My wife's family actually lives in Texas, so we can be closer to like her family and stuff like that. So yeah, I just want to live and not have to worry about money and to pay for all these like expensive things out here,
Yes, life is expensive. And if
Mhm.
we are fortunate, we're paying less than 30% of our income for our living space, but many of the people are not. And so
Right.
that's the big issue. And so that's why I love the idea of a tiny home. You get to own it, you get some agency and what happens. But
Mhm.
like you mentioned, or like we were talking about, you kind of got to know how to tinker around the house and know how to fix
Mhm.
things, or at least know how to find somebody that fixes things. So it sounds like you are really good with the research of it all. So I want to go back really quick. When your house got there and all the things were broken and damaged, did that end up like, was there some sort of insurance you were able to use, or was that now
Yeah.
out of pocket? We got to get a new sink. We got to, like, how did that
Mhm.
work out?
Yeah, it was all out of pocket. Our sink is still broken. Luckily, everything was like cosmetic. So I know it's like a
Okay.
year later, but luckily everything was cosmetic. So like just the, like the rim. I mean, it was like a nice farmhouse porcelain sink that was like completely cracked. So we just kind of like patched that up by ourselves. It does not look good, but it's functional. Our refrigerator luckily worked. It just has like a huge dent in it. So we just put like a little whiteboard where we write our meal plan. Nobody would even know. And yeah, like we just fixed the mirror, the tire that he that blew out during the move. We just had to get that fixed. Luckily, it was like 5 minutes into the move, so we just had to like drive it to a shop to get it fixed, and we just replaced a bunch of tires. But yeah, when it comes to insurance for moving it, the things that were not covered are the things that broke. So anything inside the house was not covered, and then the tires were not covered. So I'm like, of course, like if there was a scratch outside of the house, they would have covered it. But yeah, unfortunately,
Not
like the
that the
way it worked,
damage happened.
of course not. So this time around, I mean, a lot of the companies that we have called are the same way. Like they, they're not responsible for anything inside of your home. And they're only really responsible for like accidents and things like that. But right now we want to get insurance for the house so that just in case something happens on the road, like everything inside is covered because this is our life, like it's our house. So I'm like, we need to get that covered before we actually move. We should have insurance right now, honestly, but we don't. Yeah, financially, it's just like it's really hard to find tiny house insurance. It's not just like, oh, I could call Geico because Geico's like, what the hell is a tiny house? They're like, is it an RV? And I'm like, yes, but no, it's not. And they're like, is it a mobile home? And I'm like, not really. Yeah, so it's really hard. And the tiny house like specific insurance, like, I mean, sometimes they're like $200 a month, and I'm kind of like, okay, like, you
How
know.
about it? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that we definitely need to look into before moving again because we don't need the accidents again.
Right. I mean, but that was something I was thinking about too. Like, there's the insurance to be on the road, then there's the insurance
Hmm.
once you park it. But
Yeah.
all of these things, folks, like they're still cheaper than what it is to live in some landlord that's going to go up every year or what have you.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
all things considered, that's still like the dopeness.
It's
So
not bad.
let's
Yeah.
bring it back around to Vegan Soul Fest. When is
Yeah.
it exactly? It's the
Oh my
summer,
gosh, I should know this.
right?
Hold
Nope,
up.
it's
Yeah, it's
okay.
in August. I'm like, let me
All
get the
right.
exact dates right.
Let's get some
Um,
exact stuff. And I'm glad that you are sitting at your lovely computer and able to just
yes.
do what it needs to do, right?
Okay, August 19th and 20th. So that's Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be at West Covington Park. And yeah, it's a 2-day festival. There's gonna be DJs, cooking demos, vendors. Like it's gonna be a fun party. Like everybody, I know last year the photos were just like, it looked like everybody was just like outside living their best life and eating vegan food. So yeah, it was like a huge thing, and I know it's going to be even bigger this year, and I'm excited. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go because we will be moving like the month before. But yeah, I'll be tuning in virtually, and I know it's going to be a good time for sure. Yeah, are you going to go? Are you able to?
Yes, I am definitely going to go. I did not go last year. I'm hoping it's not 1,000,000 degrees in Baltimore, but I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna make it happen. I told Naja I'm gonna come out there because I'm working on like not really getting rid of all the meat. I already don't really eat pork. I don't really eat beef. So I'm a poultry kind of girl. But the mushrooms are giving. They give what needs to be giving. I'm gonna try your walnut and mushroom
Oh yeah.
situation. The raw thing, because my body sometimes craves raw food. And I'm like, what am I? I'm gonna just get some lettuce and some mushrooms or something
No,
like.
yeah. Yeah, Vegan Soul Fest is definitely the place you want to be if you want to meet like, more vegan people or just like learn more about like the restaurants and businesses that are out in like the Baltimore area for sure. Like I've met so many people through social media that are like involved with Vegan Soul Fest and Black Veg Society. I can't imagine like what it's gonna be like in person. It's gonna be really cool.
I'm excited. Like I'm excited
Yeah.
for this summer. I'm trying not to work too much. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pretend like I'm a kept woman. I'm not though. I'm like,
It's the
I'm gonna just
goal.
try
It's
to.
the goal.
Hello. I'm just trying to live my best life out here. But this was so dope. This was so dope. I'm glad that you were able to come in and tune in with us. I want to remind folks that we have a weekly wellness walk at Lake Montebello. And we walk with the doctor. Come on out. We might be doing some food demonstrations. Once upon a time we did. What did they do? Have you ever tried the coconut bacon? Like it's coconut skin, but it tastes
Um,
like bacon or something. I don't know.
I haven't tried coconut bacon, but I know I help out with social media for Meet the Mushroom. They do like mushroom bacon in Baltimore. I know they're Baltimore based, so that's another company that I could plug in a little bit.
Hey, say
But
it
yeah,
again. Tell me, who are they?
yeah, they're called Meet the Mushroom. They're like a husband and wife owned business. They're from Baltimore. They're located in Baltimore. You can find it in a bunch of supermarkets in Baltimore as well. But yeah, they I host cooking demos as well, like on their Instagram and also on the Black Veg Society's Instagram. So if anybody's looking for like vegan recipes and stuff, definitely tune in to the Black Veg Society and watch me cook some stuff.
Yes, we are gonna get into it because mushrooms are like they're cancer curing or
Mm-hmm.
fighting. They're good for your immune system. Like mushrooms, a lot of the vegan stuff and things that grow from the ground are things that we should be eating every day
Yeah.
because it. But the mushrooms, they're like a superfood to me. Mushrooms,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna get into
They're
my love of
good.
mushrooms.
No, they're good. They're good. And just plug the Land of Kush. If anybody's looking for some vegan soul food in Baltimore, definitely check out the Land of Kush because it is so good.
Yes, but they're the OG, triple OG of the vegan food, y'all. So just pay
Yeah.
homage because that's what we do, and it's a great space, Black owned. That's how we get
Mhm.
down. Always doing it for the culture. So, Destiny, is there anything that you want to leave us with, or tell us how to get in touch with you, or where to
Yeah.
find the GoFundMe when it comes up?
Yeah.
Just what is it? Okay,
That
because we're
part.
here to support you.
Thank you. Yeah. So my personal Instagram, I'm primarily on Instagram. It's Eat Your Destiny, EATYO Destiny. And there I post a lot of like vegan recipes or vegan travel, how to be vegan on a budget, those types of resources. And then I also have a page for our tiny house. It's called Let's Go Tiny, LEZGOTINY. And that's where we kind of share like updates on everything that's happening with the tiny movement and our journey. So I know right now we're getting ready to start preparing more content for our move. So if you're interested in learning like how to move a tiny house, definitely tune into that. And yeah, I mean, you can also find me on the Black Veg Society's Instagram page. I do cooking demos there, and I think that's it. I'm looking forward to
So
just like meeting anybody. If you have any questions about veganism and tiny houses, I'm like open to chatting.
are the food demonstrations and the cooking demonstrations, are those scheduled or are they just random? When can we tune
No,
in to
yeah,
you?
we have some scheduled ones. I know we have one happening on the 10th. So in like 3 days, 2 days, we're gonna have another cooking demo where we're gonna be making some vegan sloppy joes on the Black Veg Society's Instagram page. So yeah, I'm not hosting that one. We have somebody else hosting it, but that'll be a really good one. So yeah, at least once a month we have a cooking demo on the Black Veg Society. And you can also look through our Instagram or Facebook to look at like some of the previous ones that we've done. But yeah, definitely like the foodie page if you want to like check out all the good recipes. That's the one to go to.
I love it. I love it. So you all know how to get in touch with Miss Des. You all know how to find me, Baltimore Homes, on all the things. So Destiny, where do you want people to look out for you for? I know you said you're most active on Instagram, right?
Yeah, Instagram, that's the main one. Yeah, if you shoot me a DM, that'll be the easiest way for us to chat. And yeah, I'm always down to be a resource for people. I think that's part of the reason why I post on social media, especially for the tiny house, because we need to see more Black and brown people in tiny houses. We need more young people, no more queer people. Like we need marginalized communities in tiny houses because this is like the movement for us. So yeah.
Big facts. Big facts. Like the idea of tiny homes and creating villages for people who are marginalized, and we can bond on, like, give me a Black culture village or a healing village with like a whole bunch of green space. But then also there's LGBT youth, and you said age out of foster care, and queer seniors, like all these marginalized populations that just need some place to just feel loved. So
Yeah.
that's what we getting into. That's what we getting into. And if Baltimore don't figure it out, Destiny, I'm gonna be down there with y'all in Texas. Okay.
Hey, come through. The more the merrier.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for blessing us with your graciousness. I really do appreciate you. And yeah, we're gonna get into it again. I'm probably gonna check in with you maybe September-ish. I think by then you'll be in Texas, maybe settled. The Vegan Soul Fest would have happened. We'll have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely. Cool.
I love it. I love it. Thank you again for joining us, Destiny. And we are out of here, y'all. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Talk to y'all later. Love you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.